Hobbits, elves, dwarves, orcs, and man.
Welcome to Cinema Gulp.
Welcome to our 20th anniversary special of
The Lord of the Rings, The Return of the King.
For Frodo!
Social.
Yeah. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the 20th anniversary special of Lord of the Rings, The Return of the King. I know we already said that in the intro. Hey, this is our fellowship. Everyone's back. This is the final movie of the trilogy, and what a capper it is. To go around the fellowship again, you got myself and Cinema Gulp's own John, and we also have Brian and Jamie back from last year and the year before. And of course, permanent member of the fellowship, longtime friend of Cinema Gulp, fellow YouTuber, Captain Infinity. And making her Cinema Gulp debut by popular demand, it's AntiDirivitive Jill. She's an amazing host of her own Star Trek series, which deep dives into Star Trek, obviously, with her free-for-all. I think it's called Tea Time on Fridays. She's very consistent. She's growing. She's up and coming, extremely knowledgeable, and most importantly, entertaining. And we're pleased to have Lady Jill. Hello.
Thank you.
Woo! I would clap, but I'm trying to keep my mithril on. It just keeps coming down.
Yeah, I mean, I think I was there with you guys. I don't really remember anything specific about this viewing. You know, it ended on a good note. It lived up to what we wanted from the first two.
I just remember it was the first time I got to see any of these movies with you guys, with the whole group, because I saw it in a military base. I saw the first one on a military base. I saw the second one with my mom in Ojai. So it was really cool to be able to see it with you guys. And John, the thing I remember, man, I don't know how you could forget it. The screeching of the Nazgul dragons or whatever they're called. Fuck, everyone was covering their ears in that movie theater. The characters in the movie are covering their ears the same time that we all were. And that's what I remember the most about it.
That's incredible. I didn't get the opportunity to see them in theaters when they came out because my love for the trilogy came a little later for me in life. But it wasn't any less significant for me because I was pulled into it by someone who became a very dear friend to me through my husband. He was like a father figure to my husband, and so he loves the books and the movies to such a degree that it made such an effect on me in my early adulthood. He lives in a house that he built himself, and he has a wonderful library. And anyway, we've sat together and watched this trilogy 3 times over. So I've only experienced the extended editions. I know Lord of the Rings as one single epic movie.
I was in a cinema with my at the time girlfriend, saw the same 3 films with the same girlfriend, and it had to be a good movie because there was no heavy petting.
Yeah, we were for sure at the Big Newport, where we watched every single movie, and we always had beach balls.
Mm-hmm. And tortillas.
It was towards the end of the era of doing that. We had been going there for over 10 years already. Gollum is still one of my favorites. I feel like Gollum is one of the best characters in all of film and literature. He's just such an interesting character, and this one gives you so much more about his backstory and, you know, why he came to be what he is, that he was human before, or I guess he was kind of a hobbit or a halfling. He looks like a hobbit, but I don't know if they ever call him that.
Yeah, well, don't they? There's a line. Isn't there a line where he says, "You are not much different than a hobbit yourself" at one time, or something like that?
Yeah, possibly my favorite character in the entire series, I would have to say, just because I hold him with such high regard. Andy Serkis does a lot to make him come to life in a way that is so much more memorable than just what, like, on the page. I do remember from The Hobbit. I read The Hobbit, but not the Lord of the Rings books, and that was a standout character and a standout segment of that film or that book. But what Andy Serkis and Peter Jackson do together to bring him to life, and by this third film, is just, he's my favorite. Second would be Sam. I think that Sean Astin deserved an Oscar nomination for Return of the King.
1000%.
Andy Serkis's nomination was owed to him, and win, in my opinion, was owed to him in the second film. But he's still a standout in this movie. He's still great. The one that stood out to me the most, and I've always known he was good, but rewatching Frodo, even though he doesn't have, it kind of seems like he doesn't have a lot to do or a lot to say, but he says so much in those moments where he's just staring, and where
those big
the ring
eyes
is taking the effect. Yeah, the stuff he does with his eyes, and the back and forth of how he feels about Gollum and Sam in certain scenes and stuff. It's just
my favorite characters are the same as yours. I love Gollum and Sam, and so it's really cool that Return of the King starts off by actually letting Andy Serkis play Smeagol just as he is, and he's just perfect because he's been the same character this whole time, and that works so well, and showing how and bringing the ring back into reminding us how important it is in this movie, amplifying Smeagol's loneliness and how that gets him to turn into Gollum, and highlighting his schizophrenia with that water reflection scene where he talks to himself.
Sam's passion for protecting Frodo, Gollum uses that against him because he seems like he's losing his shit because of it, so Gollum uses that. Do you see how he's acting? He's very high strung, and it's like, no, he's just protecting Frodo, but he turns Frodo against him, which is, in this one, comes full circle.
I like Merry and Pippin.
I knew you were going to say that.
Yeah, they steal the show. I think they're the best duo in the movie.
They're definitely the characters who go from the least important to very significant characters. Especially Pippin in this one. Pippin has a large role to play. Yeah, those are good picks. I love those guys. And
they grow so much because they're the youngest hobbits. They're especially Pippin, who's not even an adult by Hobbit standards yet. Yeah, he's only 28, and you're not a grown-up hobbit until you're 33, which is why I was really happy while I was still 33.
Sam is my favorite. He's the MVP of these three movies for me. Again, his growth from just being kind of a clumsy gardener of Frodo, his first couple of scenes where he comes into the movie, something about the end of the world. Like, he's so bumbling, but he loves Frodo.
Samwise has the most growth, isn't it? By the end of the story, he's the mayor of the Shire, basically.
I love their goodbye to each other. The biggest, I think, John, probably the biggest eruption of the theater back when we saw it was when Sam comes to Frodo's rescue from Shelob. Yeah, and then he's just a badass the rest of the time. He has no problem fighting off orcs. He's killing orcs on the way up to that tower. He's completely just like a warrior at that point. So
yeah, he goes from a very, very uncertain of himself at the very, very beginning, just knowing that he wanted to be there for Frodo.
I'm about to take a step which is further than I've ever gone from the Shire. I love that, that's just new territory for him, and then he kind of decides to be a different person at that. I love that. It's
one
great.
Small step for one small hobbit, one giant leap for hobbit kind.
One of my favorite things about Sam is in this movie is that he's very hopeful at the beginning, rationing out the lembas bread, but then even towards the end, he starts to lose some of that hope. So that's a really important theme in this movie, is going from hopefulness to despair and just wavering back and forth between those two things.
I will take 1 second to talk about another character, because everybody on the panel so far talked about how much we love characters that were already part of the story moving forward. New characters in this film that aren't part of the previous two. Denethor, even though he's a lunatic and makes terrible choices in every scene he's in, I find him really interesting. I love the performance by that actor. I think it's John Noble or something. Is his
John
name?
Noble,
Correct.
Yeah, from Fringe.
That's it.
From Fringe, yeah.
Have to look at.
He's fantastic in this movie.
Oh, he's the dude from Fringe. Oh, wow.
Potassium bromide. Do you know what that is? Are you okay, sir? It is known to induce renal cell tumors, mesotheliomas of the peritoneum. Can I call someone for you?
But yeah, I really like his character and some of the scenes that he's involved in.
I agree with you about Denethor in terms of, I'd love him as a foil for Theoden, because they both had a similar thing kind of happen to them, losing a son, and where Theoden was able to overcome the evil that was infused into him. Denethor didn't even have to get possessed to be wicked.
You see Denethor in the second movie in the extended cut, and it gives you the dynamic of the sons and how he favors one over the other because Boromir is such a warrior, where Faramir is too.
Faramir not so much.
Yeah, well, he's a good warrior. He just doesn't have that kill. He just doesn't have that, that
barbarian spirit.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah,
run into battle.
Pippin and Merry.
That's what
are my
said.
favorite.
Especially Pippin in this one.
Well, they both become such heroes. It's been so long that they've been so scared and timid. All of a sudden, they're just coming into showing who they are. They're still so cuddly, like little tiny Ewoks, but they're at the same time they've become warriors on their own. It's like a serious growth with all of the movies.
Mary fucking stabs the Witch King in the fucking leg. That's crazy.
Eowyn couldn't have defeated the Witch King without Mary.
Correct.
Yeah,
yes.
That's right. Yeah, Mary and Pippin, they cooked the salted pork for Gimli. Remember when they showed up at Isengard?
More to beer, salted pork.
Yep, they were definitely a little bit inebriated there. One more time. It's good that there are light moments because it's a very serious, somber movie for a lot of the time. And Merry and Pippin bring a little bit of comedy.
We're celebrating it, but we got to bring up some of the things. This one, what is it? Minas Tirith. The Battle of Minas Tirith is amazing, and it's way bigger than Helm's Deep, but it's not nearly as good. And it's due to the fact that it's all CGI renders for the most part, and because it's in the daytime. Daytime doesn't help CGI at all.
Yeah, they probably only had 6 horses.
Yeah, I mean, I like when Smeagol's talking to himself, convincing himself that he needs to kill the hobbits. That's like fucking awesome. Super unique. You don't see that in any, I don't know. What movie do you get to see this person talking to themselves, talking them into murder?
Yeah, he says, you've done this before. You can do it again.
Yeah, do it again. It's cool. Even though it was like
cool, man.
200 years earlier. He's like, it's fine. Come on, kill him. Get the ring back.
Gandalf the White comes roaring in and saves the leftover fighters with his light on that white, beautiful steed.
Yeah. Shooting the light against the
dragon monsters, whatever they were. And then
another one of those powers that just comes out of nowhere that Gandalf has that could have been useful in other battles.
And now he's Gandalf the White.
Yeah, but he's the White now.
Well, he was Gandalf the White in the second one. He didn't do that at Helm's Deep.
Yeah. It was
but
dark.
My third one is when Gondor's sword comes out.
Oh my God, man.
Yeah. We watched it again and again, and I still get goosebumps. I just love that scene because it's them two, and he's saying about Arwen's, she's dying, and you have to win. And he's like, whoosh.
Yes, I love what leads up to that moment. It's from Arwen making the sacrifice to become immortal, and her dad finally accepts that that's what she's doing with her life, and will finally help Aragorn.
And I just feel so bad because Liv Tyler was brilliant, and she just got cut out of so much of these movies. She still had a bigger part than I guess the character does in the book, which is almost like nothing. So.
Right. She's basically in the appendices. So the fact that she's brought in the movies as much as she is great because she is important to Aragorn's life.
But you can see she's a badass in the first one, though. Like, come on, man. If you want him, come and claim him. That's fucking awesome.
Come on, motherfucker!
Minas Tirith, Denethor catching a slap off Gandalf.
That's a great time because that's where Gandalf he realizes that he has to take charge. Sam defeating Shelob is my favorite scene because it's emblematic for what makes him the hero, his love, his loyalty, devotion to Frodo, supporting him on the quest, and the part of that is even after he defeats Shelob, the heartbreaking scene where he believes Frodo is dead, that he might be the one who has to take the ring. Like, but he of course he doesn't want to do that. And I
don't know if anybody is a better crier on screen than Sean Astin.
Yeah,
I'm not even joking, man.
Yeah.
His performance makes me cry.
But even before that, the scene where Frodo gets stabbed by Shelob and he's just like
the foam's coming out of his mouth.
It belongs in a horror movie. It's so cool.
That's another thing about the whole thing with Shelob is the music is completely different from the rest of the movie. Like
I know a lot of people don't like this part. The Cursed Men of the Mountain. I love how Tim Burton it is. Again, Jill, you were talking about how the music shifts a little bit. They kind of really bring down the music in sort of this kind of, if you've ever listened to the score of Sleepy Hollow, the movie almost turns into that sound, and then you see the crooked trees and the gray sky, and it's just Gimli, Legolas, and Aragorn going through these mountains quietly. You know, say what you want about how I really like the way the cursed men are rendered, because it looks like they're half men, half skeletons, and it kind of moves like a hologram, you know, like they kind of go in and out of it's super cool. I for some reason people are divided on that whole thing. I love it. It's way better in the extended cut. It's not even, you don't even know what's happening in the theatrical cut. But
it's like kind of Sleepy Hollow type.
I'm gonna nitpick your scene, Ben.
It's not perfect. It's not perfect.
Well, no, I was gonna say I love the extended version of that scene because you get more of what's going on in that scene, and it's I agree with everything you were saying. I love how that scene's set up, how it has that Tim Burton feel or whatever, the look of the characters. But I hate that moment when the skulls break through. It feels like they waterfall swept away. It's just ridiculous that they're able to traverse that cliff with that many skulls pouring past them.
And that CGI is not great when they're jumping over the skull.
it feels like, even though we still have a moment in this film particularly where Legolas slides around on a fucking animal and does a bunch of shit. Well, you know what? Okay, so this reminds me of the scene from Fellowship. Fellowship's perfect, but I think even in our review, I did point out one scene that doesn't quite work for me is the stupid stairs collapsing and everyone jumping.
Ooh, that's cheesy. A rough looking CGI.
This feels like that moment from this film.
Yeah,
and not buying into this moment that they could even survive it. Really,
I agree with you. I like the concept of the River of Skulls falling because I think it's
avalanche of skulls.
Is it supposed to symbolize that like they're breaking out of this area finally and they're gonna go and do this thing?
Those skulls are all of the army that's in that mountain.
That's what I was saying. Like it's supposed to be them kind of. Yeah, that's what I meant. Like it's all the skulls of the army of the dead because they're gonna go and fulfill this vow or whatever. When you get to the Hobbit, say what you want about those movies, but in the Desolation of Smaug, when Bilbo is running around the gold coins in Smaug's lair, that is where they got it right because the CGI was 10 years later. So when you see him running through all those all that treasure, it looks great. Mm-hmm. But when you see the three guys jumping around the skulls, it doesn't look good at all.
Great, no.
So I agree with you on that. I just like that scene for the tone and the movie.
I do like the scene and the design on the characters very specifically. I love how that looks.
My only question with that is, so because they got out of that, all of a sudden the King of the Dead or whoever he was comes out through the mountain and says, okay, now we'll fight.
Yeah.
Is that because they actually beat the waterfall or the avalanche or the stream of or was it actually what?
No, I think the skulls fell because they had already made up their decision.
Yeah, they decided.
But it took but Aragorn didn't know that. So then he goes out of the cave and then he sees the weird fucking pirate people and he's like, we're fucked.
Fuck.
They were cursed. They had
he made a promise to them that if they fight, then he would
release them.
Well, I know, but they took a while to show up, is what I'm saying, to reveal.
That's what I was wondering, is if it was some kind of booby trap or whatever, and then
I think it's a little both. I think it's meant to, if they didn't have to fulfill their promise, by them being swept away, then they wouldn't. But since they were still alive, they had to fulfill the promise.
I know we're jumping ahead, but if I was Aragon, I would have kept them around longer without saying your oaths are fulfilled. I would have been like, "You're going to Mordor with us, motherfucker." Yeah. Andrew Lesney, the cinematographer, that
the cinematographer.
Yeah, that he did King Kong and he did these three. But man, every one of the movies just gets darker and darker. And cinematography wise, this is my favorite one. Forget about the CGI. I love Mordor. Mordor is
so awesome.
Fucking coolest looking thing I think I've ever. That's the thing that you dream of, you know, like you have a dream
Mordor,
about.
Like, it's a world it's a world in Dungeons and Dragons that you would just live in forever.
Yeah, like people used to say, "Oh, these books are unfilmable," and it's like that right there says "fuck you" to that, you know.
Yeah, the scenery is absolutely amazing, and just the costumes and the face painting and the teeth and the contacts of the eyes, they actually get up super close to all the orcs and everything.
Oh, they really show the slime and that's the horror side of Peter Jackson. He wants to show
absolutely
that shit.
Beautiful.
Like when Gollum is turning in the earlier scenes and they get close up on his teeth.
Yeah,
so beautiful.
Eating the catfish.
You were talking about the eyes and stuff. That specific moment where Gollum, like, he closes his eyes for 1 second and then opens them.
And then opens. Yeah,
they're the bigger versions. They're less. Like that's such a cool, like almost a horror moment as well.
Yeah. What a detail too.
Yeah. Well, and the thing that I thought would have been different was that Smeagol's voice. Unfortunately, that's one of my nitpicks.
His voice isn't different.
Isn't different. I thought that he would have had like a normal
that's kind of weird.
And then as he turned, it turned into that. So that's my only nitpick.
Yeah, I agree with you. Like, why does he still sound like this?
Already.
Oh, I see. It's like I've been corrupted by the ring. No, I always talk like this.
Yeah, right here. I was already like this.
My
precious.
The City of the Dead, the green lit city that the orcs march out of.
Yes.
The Witch King of Agmar or whatever lives in this city or something like that.
Skybeam.
The Skybeam. That whole scene, the way that Peter Jackson zooms in on that gargoyle with that spin shot and just like the tongue hanging out closer. And I love that whole segment, that little scene. Just the look of the city is the main thing that I love about that, but there's a lot of the camera work and the music and kind of the intensity of that moment, the screams from the what do they call the beasts? Fell beasts or something like that?
I don't know.
I think they call them fell beasts.
Flying things?
Yeah.
No, I call them dragon.
I call them Nazgul dragons.
Nazgul dragons.
Nazgul horror.
But then my favorite, I think, scene in the entire movie is Pippin singing.
Come, sing me a song.
Pippin singing.
Oh.
And that was one of my things.
The dude's got a voice, man.
Faramir riding out, to meet the orcs, and the editing in that scene with Denethor continuing to eat.
Oh, he's just eating, chomping the food.
Metaphorical bloody eating.
Billy Boyd's got a hell of a voice, man.
He does, and you know how they figured that out was that the writer Philippa Boyens heard Billy Boyd singing at karaoke, and she had always wanted to put in that part where Denethor asks about if he can sing, and then she picks a poem, a Tolkien poem for him to sing.
The dialogue in that scene, the emotion in that scene, the singing, his voice is actually really great and
really great.
So that is my favorite scene.
At the same time, Faramir is going into battle because of his father.
Yeah,
he's just sitting there eating.
That song perfectly encapsulates like the father-son relationship, and like Faramir saying, like, if I shall not return, please don't think ill of me or whatever, and he doesn't even give him a look. Least favorite characters, I'll go Gandalf. I can't stand him in this movie. Like every single thing he says, there never was much hope. Oh, we're not supposed to live. Like everything.
What?
Like,
That's because
Full of a talk.
Sam and Gandalf
we are
are
going
the
to
ones-
lose this battle, Pippin.
There never was much hope. Death is just another path. One that we all must take. Just a fool's hope.
We see that hope diminish. That's part of what is at the end of this movie in terms of taking away some of that hope and then bringing it back at the end.
You know, that's another nitpick because most of the characters are great. And I think Theoden is 10 times better in this one than he was in the second one. He shows strength. He shows that one sign of weakness where he goes, why should we go to their aid for those who did not come to ours? You know, but then he changes his mind. And
If you want least favorite characters, that's an easy one.
Yeah.
Lego lame ass.
Well, I have to bring it up.
Yeah, they just came as I was saying it. Lame Legolas, played by Orlando Bland. I mean, my goodness, there's just nothing there. Oh, look at me, I'm surfing down some stairs. Oh, I killed more people than you. That's funny. I mean, really, even for an elf,
he really got reduced down to nothing.
Stairs was ridiculous, but a giant elephant, that's perfectly natural.
Just like you pull in and you just get spit right out of them, and you just drop in and just smack the lip, whoop-ah, drop down, snap, ah!
I can't think of any characters that I don't really like in this movie other than them. And it's not that I hate them. I'm not totally down on. I'm still glad they're part of the story and whatever.
I could lose Legolas.
They're just kind of there.
Legolas, Legolas wins
we're
the
down
drinking.
an Archer. Boo-hoo.
Oh, Legolas
He wins the drinking game.
I just want to put a cap on the drinking. They glorify alcoholism. Why doesn't Gandalf sit at the table and go, you drink too much? Huh?
So I'm going to bring this up. Aragorn tipped my scales a little bit too much with flirting with poor Eowyn.
Yeah, that wasn't cool.
And then all of a sudden he says that after like treating her so nice and being so sweet and like pulling her in and loving her, and then all of a sudden he forgets that he has this elf and then says, I'm sorry, I'm not what you need. Isn't that awful? Like for me, he's not my favorite character.
No. I'll touch on something that I don't really love that plays into what Jamie was talking about. Eowyn, the human, the human girl.
Eowyn, yeah.
Yeah, she starts
when she's officially tossed aside and realizes, oh, I'm not going to end up with Aragorn or the king. There's this immediate cheesy Hollywood forced, hi Faramir, I don't even think I know your name, but we basically fell in love in 1 second.
I don't know if that's in the book. That
it
might
is.
Be in the book.
They're married in the books, yeah.
Okay, so it is in the book.
Yeah.
No, it's very superficial in the movies, but in the books it's very important because it brings the two lands together.
And every one of these movies has a particular orc that is like deformed or very different looking than the others to show that this is kind of the one. And this one has that really grotesque one that looks like it has you know when a potato sits for too long and a growth comes off the side of it?
Hey, you guys, Lieutenant.
Oh yeah.
Oh, slop.
You guys all know the trivia.
Hey, you guys.
The white orc with the deformed face and he looks like he's had a stroke. One half of his body barely works.
That guy, yeah.
He has hardly any
Do you know the trivia of who that was designed after?
Elephant Man.
No, I know.
Harvey Weinstein. And it totally does, especially if you look at him now in his older state.
And that's because he was with Miramax and he told them he made it so that they would only have one movie, and so they had to move to a different production company.
I will remember you.
What was the saddest scene? I really don't like when animals are hurt, and with all those arrows and the elephant.
You know what I find really touching but not sad is when Merry when Pippin helps Merry because Merry had just stabbed the Witch King and he's all fucked up.
That's on my list.
Oh, it's so sweet.
I actually have on my notes heartstrings.
There's a more heartstring. more heartstring when Sam finds Frodo and he's like thinks he's dead or he's dying, and he's like, don't go where I can't follow. That's
Or how about when Sam
okay.
says, I may not be able to carry it for you, but I can carry you. Oh,
Yeah, a lot of that stuff of them making the
That's
final,
one of mine scenes.
No,
the
what?
final ascent up the mountain and stuff. There's some good heartstrings moments there.
But I will play off of Brian's when they're holding their hands, Frodo and Sam, and it's like I'll never let you go, like Titanic style.
Frodo, you can't die now.
Yeah.
You gotta pull up.
But it was a very Titanic feeling. Like,
to be honest with you, Golem is probably the hero because he got them all the way there,
Mm-hmm.
and then bit.
No, he didn't. He got them to. He got them to Shelob. That's it.
Well, the thing is, he's not.
Close,
I wouldn't
help
necessarily say he's a hero, but he he is super important, and because even very early on, Gandalf knows that he's important.
Yeah.
He says something like that Gollum will have his place, and he will make his journey, and there's a reason. Yeah, Frodo gets completely consumed by the ring. You think he's going to be just like Isildur, and he's just going to go off and be like, "This is my ring now."
I'm glad you brought up that specific name, Isildur, because Elijah Wood does such a wonderful job recreating the look on Isildur's face. You see it for a second at the beginning of Fellowship. I mean, obviously filmmaking, they can probably bring up the still and be like, hey, look like this. But he did such a great job of turning his head in kind of the same way with the same look on his face of like, no.
When Elrond is standing there.
I'm not. And it's just
like Sam is where Elrond was, right? And he's like, Isildur! Yeah.
Oh. I know, and then Sam would have probably, like, I don't know, battled him or something, but then Gollum
shows up. I love it. You see
out.
Gollum like on the back of an invisible guy.
Bites his finger off.
But that's all. None of that shit's from the book. Like, I think, like, doesn't the ring just like stumble into the Mountain of Fire? Like, he doesn't have a fight with Gollum or anything.
Like
oh, really?
Well, Gollum still bites his finger and gets the ring, and he's like,
but Gollum just like
got the ring, and he does a little dance. He does his little dance, and then he just stumbles and falls off.
Big thing of the movie is that Frodo is gonna let himself go because the ring is gone, and Sam talks him into grabbing his hand. That's the climax. Not about like Gollum falling over. It's like he's like, let it go, Mr. Frodo, and Mr. Frodo's like, I just want to jump in there with the ring.
Yeah.
Exactly. And if you notice the ring is resting on that lava, not going under.
Yeah, no, that's a great
until fucking Frodo grabs Sam's hand, and then it goes.
Yeah,
down.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah, and the changes in the movie don't betray the book because the ring still falls in by accident. Gollum still falls off by accident. It just happens to be through the fight between.
Which is more. You have to do that in a movie. It makes more sense, you know.
Peter Jackson did fix the story a little bit because in the book, when they go back to the Shire, it's pretty whack. Where they have another battle.
Where like Saruman is still alive and he like took over the Shire.
He's supposed to be Saruman, a mini color.
John?
Saruman's got like a ringleader in like one of the bad hobbits that you're supposed to know from like early on in the story. He's like the ringleader.
Baggins is.
Yeah,
the Baggins.
Yeah, the Baggins is exactly.
Proud feet.
Yeah, the proud feet.
Or the foot.
And one of them is like, ooh,
the proud foots. They are the worst.
Yeah, they are the worst. I hate those.
There's
guys.
no Baggins here. They're all up at Hobbiton.
But they partner with Saruman and they're like, I don't know, raping and pillaging in the Shire. And then
well, they had to cut it out because it was a whole new story that they would have had to.
Yeah, they never even shot it. Yeah, they didn't even shoot it. Yeah,
well, what they did, they paid homage to it in the Fellowship of the Rings whenever Frodo looks into Galadriel's.
Oh yeah, you're right. Yeah. That would have been a whack ending, but it's cool that they.
Wait, they didn't have room for another 15-minute ending to add on to the 45-minute ending they already have.
The idea of the scouring of the Shire is that the Shire isn't
that's what it's called.
invulnerable to the evil that had happened. There was still leftovers and things to clean up.
you know, the Ride of the Rohirrim, we need to make mention of that because it's some great scores. And again, if you don't like Theoden, then you don't like the scene because he's rallying up the troops where he was a pussy in the second movie, you know, ride now, and he's slamming the swords against the fucking staffs.
Not good for the blade.
A good solid ending, definitely less phoned in than Return of the Jedi. No characters say here we go again in Return of the King. So yep, a good solid rounding out to the trilogy, satisfying. My favorite is still the second one of the three.
Me too.
You could call it the Empire Strikes Back of the Lord of the Onion Rings. But of all the Lord of the Rings films I've ever seen, it's the most recent. Thank you.
All right. What it means to me is basically it doesn't mean a whole hell of a lot, but the fact is I could watch these movies over and over and over again until the moment that I die because they are so good, and I do really love the extended versions. I probably could never watch just a regular one ever again. A normal, like, what? They're 2 hours?
Yeah, they're only 2.5 hours.
But the 4 hours, the same again, because it brings so much more feeling and attitude.
This movie, even though it's not as good as the second one or the first one, it's still unbelievable. You know, I mean, it's a 9 out of 10 for me. It's definitely in my top 20 movies, top 25 movies ever made. And it's a perfect conclusion to almost perfect conclusion to the best trilogy ever. Probably even better than Star Wars, the original Star Wars trilogy. So it's amazing, you know. And
I thought you meant the Disney one.
Yeah, well, but one, two, three. I mean, I shouldn't even have to say that that's the best because it just is. As far as what it means to me overall, like the first time I ever watched Lord of the Rings, it was the first time I got to see like dungeons and monsters on screen the way they're supposed to be. It's the first time you get to see like adventurers going out and battling, you know, magic users in a way that's beyond what you ever saw before. There was Conan, and you know, which is a great movie, but this movie took all of it to the next level. Peter Jackson is a badass. It's unbelievable. So, you know, it was game changing for me for movies for sure.
This to close up on this movie, it's my third favorite, but I do think it's one of the best trilogy cappers of all time for sure because I love it. Just because it's not a 10 like Fellowship or an 11 like Two Towers, I would say it's a 9.5. I mean, it's close to perfect. It just there's some things that feel a little bit rushed, and but I love it to death, and I'm super happy. I couldn't really ask for a better capper. What the trilogy means to me is so much has to do with Howard Shore, the person that scored these movies. It just, I mean, we've talked about that a million times, John, on the show. Like, a score truly makes you emote certain ways. And I've never watched a trilogy of movies where I just, the score just made me feel so many different things exactly when you're supposed to, the right amount of everything. There was never an out of place moment of any song in this entire score. I love that, and I love the cinematography. Who doesn't love Peter Jackson? Everyone in this movie, everyone in this trilogy afterwards should have became a mega star, and it didn't really happen for a lot of people, and that's fine. Who knows what the reasons behind that are? But yeah, it's truly amazing. 2001, 2002, 2003. Every Christmas, I could not look forward to a movie more than these ones at that time. So it means a lot to me. And I think the music has a lot to do with it. I still listen to it all the time. Me and Brian, when we used to go backpacking, we would be humming da, 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 when we were hiking on mountains. Da, 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 da.
It's my least favorite of the three, but I still gave it Best Picture for the year, 2003. I still thought it was the best movie of the year. But there is a little bit of separation between the first two films and this one, in my opinion, in my love for it. Like Brian mentioned, oh, these might be in, my top 20 or 25 favorite movies. Fellowship would be in my top 20 favorite movies, potentially. Two Towers, maybe my top 50.
Wow.
Return of the King would fall a little bit farther beyond all that. As Jamie said, seeing the extended versions and seeing this entire story, or everything that Peter Jackson could cram into these 3 extended versions and really flesh out this story from beginning to end, it's just the most amazing cinematic journey. And I think I maybe have only had the opportunity one time to try to watch all the movies in one long stretch. Maybe I've done it twice. I don't know. But that's such a journey, such a cinematic journey to go on if you could ever find the time to sit and watch all 3 of them together. Fellowship is definitely my favorite. There's so much in that film that just stands out as the best of this trilogy. Even the score, I think there's moments, maybe because I think I even said this probably in our review, a lot of it has to do with being introduced to all of this stuff. And by the time you get to the third film, it's so much more familiar and it's not all new anymore. But Ben, I'm right there with you that when these movies were coming out every year, we had this to look forward to. Once we got a taste of that first film, it was like crack that, the next year we were so excited to get the opportunity.
Fuck yeah.
Fantasy crack.
Yeah,
yes.
fantasy crack.
And
bath salts, Cap. Bath
also
salts.
to Brian's point and what Cap just said there, we grew up on Dungeons and Dragons and fantasy. And this really was the first time it came to life on the screen the way that we envisioned it in our heads as we played the game. And so it was just such a treat to finally see this subject matter treated with the respect and getting the fans, people loving it, not just people who already knew about fantasy, but drawing in new fans. And then Peter Jackson's just such a visionary director that, he was just such a perfect choice to bring all this to life. His love and I think is it his wife and the other, there's like 3 of them that were the writing partner or writing team.
Yeah.
Their knowledge of this story from the novel to the screen, it's just so impressive. I don't know if there'll ever be anything that matches this in terms of a completed story within a trilogy. And just how great it still looks 20 years. I mean, we're doing this as a 20-year anniversary. So much of these films still look amazing, still impress you, still blow you away. So yeah, I mean, a lot of love for all 3 films. Sadly, Return of the King is my least favorite and the one that I would probably revisit the least. There's even times where I just kind of want to watch the first 2 and then cut it off there because I know this one does run on a bit long.
Yeah, because the ghosts just kill everybody at the end.
Yeah.
Well, and then they let him go before they really need him.
The most frustrating thing to me when I try to explain to someone about why I love Lord of the Rings so much is because it's not just about good versus evil, light versus dark. Those elements are there, but not inevitable because the evil in the story can even corrupt the very good. And that's why the ring is the adversary through Sauron. It doesn't just promise power because that's not everyone's motivation. It tailors itself to what you desire, even if the desire is to be good. And so that's why Gandalf, Galadriel are tempted by it. And you would have a queen, not dark, but beautiful, and terrible as the dawn, tempestuous as the sea, and stronger than the foundations of the earth. All shall love me and despair. And that's my favorite. But
I love that.
Anyway. And so even though I put Return of the King last in my list of my favorites, it's important to remember that it's extremely difficult to end the story for a movie, even one that's already written for you. And just how successful this adaptation is at achieving that is so great. And
I agree. You're so right.
And so the principal photography for this movie was done all at once in just 16 months. So that's an incredible achievement all on its own. I know they came back for reshoots and things, but I can't think of another trilogy that does something like that. And so I agree with that rap song you shared earlier.
Yeah, that was great, right?
Lord of the Rings is the #1 trilogy. Ask John Monahan, or you can ask Billy. Sean Astin's here too. Well, that's actually silly. Will Elijah Wood join us? I don't know, really.
And Viggo Mortensen should get some more credit too, because he came in late because if you guys remember, and Captain and Brian and John, we talked about this in Fellowship. He was replacing Stuart Townsend, that pussy.
Whoa.
You know,
Really?
like yeah. So he came in super late, reshot a bunch of shit that guy had already shot. And he was way better Aragon, even though he's already 41 years old. And I think Stuart Townsend was like 30 or something. He just ended up being, I mean, Viggo Mortensen was fucking perfect in that role.
Totally. It's basically like Eric Stoltz. We ended up with the right person in the right role.
Yeah, we started with Eric Stoltz. We got Michael J. Fox.
Yeah.
Well, actually, you need Eric Stoltz to be the second Marty because he wouldn't look like the first Marty because it's a different timeline. So it actually only works if you have both. I don't know if this counts as what it means to me, but I did realise, at least in the books, if not the movies, that in Lord of the Rings they actually mention the month of September. Therefore, Frodo and Bilbo Baggins are canonically using exactly the same Gregorian calendar, if not Julian, as Captain James T. Kirk. Baggins and Kirk are using the same calendar. That's canon.
Oh, wow.
I was actually ranking my movies. I do rank this as my least favorite, but I see them all as one movie because that's how I experienced it. So I'm only ranking them for the purposes of this podcast. But I love the first movie. The first movie is my second favorite for introducing me to this expansive world of Tolkien, where Tolkien's created a language, all of Middle Earth, an entire world for us to dive into. And then Two Towers is incredible for so many things, like Sam's speech that was made just for the movie, encapsulating his character, about the journey to hold on for goodness, and then getting deeper into Gollum's
wonderful
character.
Monologue.
And also because of Isengard, I really love the Ents. They're my favorite. And overall, the Hobbit's journey. So, and actually, I wanted to talk about the endings to this movie. I love the endings to this movie.
Oh, it was very brief.
Only 40 minutes once all the action wraps up on Mount Doom. I bring up the display on my TV. I'm like, 40 more fucking minutes of this shit.
Yeah, but
apparently,
God, anything worth doing
is doing slowly.
We're just saying good morning.
I heard
that said goodbye.
I was just saying I hadn't seen it forever, and I remembered the knock on the movie is, it's got so many endings and it takes forever to wrap up. And so I wanted to see, like, well, how much time do they commit to that? And I was actually shocked to see like 40 more minutes. Like, I know everyone complains, but no, they're right. There is still a whole movie left.
Well, I mean, you know what it is? They do so many fade outs. They do so many fade to blacks. When Frodo leaves on the ship with the elves, you're like, it's done. But then it goes back to Sam, like going and closing his door. You're like, holy shit.
The first ending is, of course, the reuniting of the Fellowship. It's supposed to be jubilant, but that's the only ending that's kind of a little bit goofy the way. But I get what they were going for because the sunshine and the goodness is overshadowing everything. The thing that I love the most is Sam and Frodo and how their true friendship and brotherhood is portrayed.
Yeah.
And they're very much brothers, and they're all very necessary endings. You need the ending with the reuniting of the Fellowship.
Even with Frodo, you need to see Bilbo go with Frodo to the west.
Oh yes,
right. And you need to see Aragorn become. Yeah.
I just wish Sam had joined the Hobbit pillow fight at the end. And they all jump in bed together and jump around. Sam just sits there at the door and goes, I saved your ass.
No, you need to.
He's got his little lumpkins or little potatoes, and he's got his big potato at home. So he's happy.
I'm a little upset. I never got to see Shelob. What happened to Shelob? She went into the cave and then
she lives to fight another day.
Where the hell did they get potatoes? No one's gone to the Americas yet. Call this Europe.
Potato.
Potatoes. Boil 'em, mash 'em, stick 'em in a stew. Boil 'em, mash 'em, stick 'em in a stew. Boil 'em, mash 'em, boil 'em, mash 'em, boil 'em, mash 'em, stick 'em in a stew.
You can't have them. You haven't gone to America yet. There are no potatoes. You're in bloody proto-Europe.
Well, this is
Have a turnip, Gandalf.
This is Tolkien's idea of what Europe should have been. It should have had the potatoes, and it should have had the horses and everything.
Yeah.
Well, why not give us Bluetooth and Wi-Fi while you're at it, Tolkien?
You know,
I mean, it's a fantasy, isn't it? Let's have 28 gigabits per second download speed.
Just because it's the final film, and just because I love the other two a little bit more, doesn't take away how incredible the movie is. Because it's stupendous, because it's very easy to mess up the ending, and instead they make every moment meaningful. All the music is beautiful, matching the intense emotions in the movie, and I cry every time during this movie at one point or another, even on rewatches. So this is just, it's one big movie that I love, and the main character threads, it's just gonna stay a legendary masterpiece to me.
I usually shed a tear.
Wonderfully said, Jill.
I shed a tear while watching this when that 40-minute ending starts.
Yeah, it starts. One thing I don't cry over on the rewatch: the death of Gandalf the Grey. You know why? Because it never happened. It was a fake.
Right. Okay.
Great.
Well, if you
It made me
ask...
realise it's the cheapest fake out ever with the music and the slow mo. I'm never letting it go, Jackson. That was a total fake out. What you got us for the? What is it? Usual Suspects. Mother, don't even get me started.
The actors, the
that
Hobbit
Sam or
actors,
Frodo? Who's there?
their least favorite ending was the one where they were going off into the afterlife, because Sam, the actor for Sam, Sean Astin, he forgot to wear his vest, and then they had to shoot the whole thing over again, and so then everybody was picking on him, asking him if he's got the right vest on this time, because they have to do this big emotional scene where they have to cry and everything. And so they do it all over again, and they think it's great, and the next day they come in and they find out that everything was blurry, it was out of focus, so they have to do it one more time.
And he still cries.
I blame One-Eyed Willie.
Yeah.
It is. I am super hot in this thing.
Yeah, so I took it off.
Well, that's
I think all the ladies on the panel are super hot.
Yeah, all the ladies
guys,
are great. Yeah.
One thing that we have to, before we end this, the beginning of the movie when Smeagol's trying to put that big hook in that little worm, that freaked me
in
out.
the very beginning. What are you talking about? You're a
I think the stupidest shot in this movie is when the guy is underwater with his fishing pole. This is an emotional moment for all of us because we've been doing this since 2021 with John, with Captain, with Brian, with Jamie, with myself, and so happy to have Jill this year. Please check out her YouTube channel. It's amazing. It's growing. She's a fantastic creator, fantastic content. AntiDirivitive Jill. Link will be below and in the description. Captain, same for you, sir. Please, everybody, check out Captain Finity. I think. Are you still Finity?
Something like that. Most importantly, my forthcoming graphic novel called Captain Infinity. Check that out.
Dude, tell us about that briefly, because that's almost done, right?
All right, here's the elevator pitch. There's two Jessicas. Why? Okay. Guaranteed no time travel.
Well, he has a graphic novel in the works. I've seen the art. I've seen the artwork. It looks awesome. It looks right. It looks like the aesthetic you see from his channel. Can't wait to see it. And subscribe to Captain Finity's channel as well. This was so much fun these past 3 years. We're gonna have to find another excuse to do another trilogy.
The Amazon series. Amazon.
I'm not doing Ant-Man. I'm not doing Ant-Man.
Let's do the Before Sunrise.
Do the Rings of Power.
There is
Yeah,
a
rings of
tempest
power.
within me.
I think we're gonna skip
I
that.
love you.
I love you guys. And Jill, thank you. This was wonderful. And you're back. You're welcome back
Yes,
anytime
nice
you
to
want.
meet you, Jill.
Well, thank you so much. I wanted to thank you for allowing me to join the fellowship this year because these movies have had a profound effect on my philosophy of life, second only to Star Trek in terms of the nature of teamwork and friendship that I find in both. And I don't know, I was grateful to be able to talk to you guys about this. It's a wonderful series that teaches you no matter how terrible things are, the hope to change things is possible if you can find the conviction.
And
Oh
don't
my
we need that
goodness.
in this world right now? Jiminy Christmas.
How great was it having Jill for this final one? Because I don't know what else to go out on. That's it.
Yeah.
Amen.
Thank you, Jill. You're awesome.
That was brilliant, Jill.
You're welcome.
All right, everybody. Thanks so much for joining us. We drink your cinema.
I drink it up! Dude, you get the best barrels ever, dude. Just like you pull in, and you just get spit right out of them. And you just drop in and just smack the lip, whoop-a! Smack the lip, whoop-a! Smack the lip, whoop-a!